It wasn't like a big light bulb moment where my life instantly changed. I think I was searching for that, but what it really was is just one tiny little change after the next, one tiny little action after the next, and then the TBM work is what keeps me stepping one foot in front of the other.
From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacey Phillips.
And your host, Jessica Gill.
As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Jessica here. I don't know if you guys caught our latest video series launch that we did in the Pathway this past week. It's called Channeling with Lacey, an energetic update for manifesting. But it is blowing my mind. It is truly tapping into what are the themes that we are going to face as a collective in 2025. And so many of the things that Lacey talked about of this shedding, of this transformation, of the removal of things. I feel like, okay, I'm not crazy. This year is making a lot more sense now. And is also starting to piece together my route and path out of it. I want to just remind you guys how powerful you all are. When we are able to step into our truth, into our center, into our genius, in our creative zone, what lights us up, what brings us joy, our authenticity, so much magic can transpire from that. And even just having this channeling launched in the Pathway membership, it invited me to connect with my own sense of channeling. I don't know about you guys, and I'm so curious, DM me if you had this experience too, but I was like, oh, I need to sit and channel. Like I need to sit and journal and see what comes through just for me, just to have that connection to source, to the universe in a different way. So if you are feeling into that energy, if you are wanting the next steps, we're going to release a brand new deep imagining that is going to help you navigate exactly what Lacey is talking about in there. How to process the shedding, how to process what is coming up, and how to see your unique path through. The kinetic energy that is possible on the other side of these transformations, on the other side of this shedding, is going to be so nurturing and so magnetic in a way that you can't really describe. So many people are already starting to say like, wow, this thing fell off and fell out of my life, but it's already been such a blessing I didn't know I needed, or a hard truth I needed to face in order to alchemize it into something so much greater. And that's really what we're getting at with this channeling series, with the tools we're going to launch with it, and what we're going to hold your hand with for the rest of this year. Because I feel like when we can reconnect with our own inner power, that is where the magic is. That is where the alchemy is. That is where the hope is. Just have that as your North Star, as your guiding compass to reconnect with the self. And then you can process the shedding and understand why it's happening and how to navigate it. And stay tuned for that DI launch next Wednesday, February 12th, inside the Pathway membership. On today's episode, we have a process with Maddy. Maddy has manifested a lot, healing her anxiety, depression, and working with her OCD, losing 30 kilos while having 2 autoimmune diseases that made weight loss feel almost impossible, making her business financially stable and then profitable, employing people who she loves, who are high achievers and trustworthy, finding aligned friends in a town that she moved to that she didn't grow up in, her dream house overlooking the ocean with a wellness room, luxury international travel, $1 million profit from her house sale, conflict-free relationship with her parents and sister, going from not being able to be in the same room to now employing both her mother and her sister in her business, help in the home with cleaners, gardeners, and husband taking most of the parenting responsibilities, close relationship with kids, moving from a home office to buying a giant studio, renovating it, and having rented a second studio next door, speaking engagement, 60K TikTok following, and a designer wardrobe, and so much more. I read you off that list, because it's so many things that are so big. And we're going to kick off this episode diving into where she was prior to this. Where was her mindset? How was her energy being used? And what were those gaps in the way? I think right now when it feels like, oh, how am I ever going to get there? The period from when she was at her rock bottom moment to when she was able to manifest this was only a few short years. So it is shocking what can transpire over the course of a year. I know for myself, when I look at where I was last January and where I am today, not only physically and materially in my space or my home, but how I operate, how I think about things, how I think about myself, how I spend my time, how I value my time. It has grown exponentially. I feel like a completely different person on the other side. So I hope you guys enjoy this one and take in all of the expansive wisdom.
And now a word from our partners.
Have you ever experienced hair thinning, your hair falling out in the shower, trying to grow thicker, fuller hair, but it feels kind of lifeless or limp? Or maybe your hair is super greasy like mine is prone to be, or has flakes in it. At this point, you guys have heard me express my profuse love for Acton Acres product line. It has been so incredible supporting my hair growth journey and really addressing the root of the problem. Because you know at TBM, we like to get down to the root. What I loved about Acton Acre and what made it truly stand out is their founder, Helen Reevy, is a board-certified trichologist who really understands the scalp and how the scalp's microbiome impacts how your hair grows. So she created an entire line of products to support your scalp health, which will in turn support your hair growth. It's not just getting the vitamins in, although that's part of it. It's about a holistic approach to scalp care. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, the number one question I get asked when I hop on stories is like, what did you do with your hair? Because it is growing so long and luscious. And I really attribute it to this routine with Acton Acre. 20 minutes before I shower, I put in their scalp detox. This is really the baseline of scalp health. This helps remove the impurities, the sweat, the buildup. If you use products, if you're in a place with high pollution or bad air quality, anything can get trapped around in your hair. And especially because I have super long hair now, making sure I clear all of that so my scalp is detoxed and cleansed properly, because most shampoos do not do this for you. So I put that on first. Then if my hair is still greasy, I'll use their salicylic acid scalp exfoliator. It used to be called their Scalp Renew. I swear by this product. You only need to use it maybe once, twice a week max, and just put it on 20 minutes again before you shower instead of your scalp detox that day. Rub it in with your fingers, and the next wash, you will notice a difference in your scalp. It will be way less greasy, more buoyant, more full of life, and less dull. It also gives my hair more volume. I swear by this product so much. And then their third product, which I've been testing out and loving the effects of, is their stem cell scalp serum. Now, this is something where it's really going to help you grow that thicker, fuller hair. It's formulated with Swiss apple stem cells, which are clinically proven to improve hair growth and boost thickness. And if you've been wanting to test out any of the Acton Acre hair care or scalp care products, including their shower head, which I also swear by, head over to Acton Acre, that's ACTANDACRE.com, and use code TBM30 at checkout for 30% off, or check the link in the show notes to direct you right there. Enjoy. And here is a quick snapshot of how Maddy went from 100K in debt to 100K launch weeks using the TBM work. We're going to hear her mini testimonial, and then we'll jump into the episode.
This is the scariest thing that has ever happened to me in my entire life. And it all began when I was giving my power away without even realizing it. I let toxic people take control of my business, and I even considered stepping away completely. I was working 60-hour weeks without even paying myself. What I didn't realize, I was stuck in a cycle of fear, self-doubt, and financial insecurity. And then my business ended up in $100,000 of debt. I was barely holding on. My mental health was in the gutter, and yet I'd convinced myself that everything was fine because I was living in this make-believe land of toxic positivity, where I wasn't validating my feelings because I thought it meant more bad things would happen. But even being in that much debt in my business, it didn't stop me because deep down I did know that I had more, and I had started doing the To Be Magnetic work. And I was listening to Lacey and Jessica on the podcast, and I started to realize that this was really just one huge lesson. And the biggest question I often get asked is, how did I take my business from being so far in debt to then hitting milestones like $100,000 launch weekends? If I had to boil it down to one thing, I would say me. That's how I did it. I took my power back, but I did it with the help of To Be Magnetic, with the TBM workshops, using the deep imaginings daily, and being able to reconnect with my authenticity, but also listening to the podcast every single week without fail. It allowed me to make sense of the chaos that I felt I was in right now. And it gave me this sense of hope that I could still take control and I could still create the life that I always knew I wanted for myself. Realize that everything in life comes down to how worthy do you feel of the life that you want versus the life that you currently have. And by increasing my self-worth through the deep imaginings and through flexing my trust muscle and just taking little steps forward, eventually I managed to just let go of what was not serving me, which was toxic clients, toxic employees, and these old limiting beliefs that were keeping me stuck. I set boundaries like never before, overcoming my old people-pleasing and emotional caretaking tendencies, stand up for myself and for what I knew I deserved. And because of that, I was able to build financial stability. I grew my marketing agency. I launched an online school, which is now helping even more people than I ever thought I could, working one-to-one. And I expanded my team again, this time with people who really, truly care and who I love spending every day with. I'm not going to pretend it's all rainbows and butterflies all the time. There are still ups and downs, especially when you're in business for yourself. But the difference is I know and I trust myself that I will be able to figure it out. And even in the moments where I might doubt myself, I just come back to the work, to the deep imaginings, to listening to the podcast, and just trust the process. Put one foot in front of the other, and eventually, in quite a short amount of time, things seem to work out for me again. This isn't difficult work, but it does require consistency, and it does require you to get really honest with yourself and to really analyze where in your life are you staying small? Where are you waiting for your external circumstances to change before you step into who you want to be? Because that sense of waiting, that sense of not feeling worthy until you get that external thing, that is actually what's holding you back. It's by doing the TBM work, connecting with the community, and knowing that you're not alone on this journey. That is what makes all the difference, and that is how you will get your breakthrough.
Okay, and now on to the episode where we'll hear in detail how Maddy made this transformation. I'm so excited to dive into your story today, Maddy, because we talked on the phone before, and just even reading through your submission, I feel like you touch on so many pain points that so many of us have been on so many times in this journey, and releasing it and actually being an expander, an example of like what it can look like to get on the other side of your own shit, especially around that perfectionism, around the people pleasing, around really listening to your inner compass. I feel like that's such a theme this year, but welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
I wanted to actually start off with, I know we usually kick off with astrology and stuff, but I was like, I really am like getting the strong ping to start with. What was your before? Tell me what life was like when you were in the muck. What was it looking like? How were you feeling? What was your mindset? Like, what did that before look like for you?
Yeah. So I joined TBM in March of 2021 after hearing Lacey on the Goop podcast, which I know a lot of people found her through that. To go back and think of that time, I was a completely different person. I looked different, I felt different, I thought differently. I'd also gone through a really bad period of burnout. So I don't even know where to start as to what my before state was, but it was pretty tragic, if I'm honest. Yeah, I have a lot of love for my old self because she worked really, really hard through a lot of difficult times to push through to get to who I am today. But basically, terrible anxiety. My normal everyday emotion was just feeling like I was doing something wrong or something was about to go wrong. I could never just relax ever. I suffered from a lot of burnout, so before falling pregnant with my second child, I actually almost drove my business into the ground because I was sleeping 16 hours a day. And I went to so many doctors, so many everything, alternative Western medicine, and no one could give me a straight answer. Surprisingly, my pregnancy kind of fixed that. I was making no money in my business because I couldn't work in my business, but also I wasn't charging enough. I was people-pleasing. I had really disaligned team members working for me who were stealing time from me, but I wasn't prepared to stand up for myself. All I did was work. That's what I was obsessed with, and I had 2 young kids and a husband who needed me as well. And I was also 30 kilos heavier, so I don't know what that is in pounds, but I was 30 kilos heavier than what I am now. But it's not so much about the weight loss, it's more about the fact that I wasn't in my best health. So I'd say on all accounts, my mindset, my health, my business, my family life, my relationships, everything was in the toilet. I was also drinking quite a bit. It wasn't a problem drinking, but it was definitely more than what my body needed and what I drink now, which is almost nothing. But it was definitely just me trying to escape my own thoughts and just being really unhappy with who I was, but also feeling frustrated because I knew there was a better way for me.
I so appreciate you sharing details and getting into that, because I think so many people, especially when you're in the thick of it, it feels like the only way out of it is continued force. Okay, like I have to do this more and more and more. I have to give more of myself. I have to be more. I have to become more. And there's almost, and I think this is really just thematic of what's going to come up this year for so many people, that there has to be that hitting point where you're like, this isn't working. Something has to change. Something has to be let go. I have to do it a new way. I don't have to force it a new way, but I have to release something and let it go. What was that shifting? Did you have a moment, or was it accumulation of moments? How did you actually begin to put one foot in front of the other and make those changes?
It wasn't like a big light bulb moment where my life instantly changed. I think I was searching for that. But what it really was is just one tiny little change after the next, one tiny little action after the next, until all of a sudden, think of it like you're going down a path and you're going down the same path, and then you just take one little tiny step to the left. And it doesn't feel like it's far from the path that you've been treading, but after walking, a few more hundred meters, you're completely in a different place to where you were, what path you were on previously. And that's what it was for me. And one thing that I would really love for all TBMers and future TBMers listening, you don't have to do this work perfectly to get results from it. I mean, on one hand, I am a perfectionist in some way, and the other hand, I'm one of those people that's, close enough is good enough. And I think that's actually a superpower of mine, because that's how I get things done a lot. I did all the workshops in order, first of all, but then I also jumped around a lot, and I still jump around a lot. I just intuitively listen to what is it that I really need right now, and I do the thing. And I'm really glad in the new DIs, Lacey even talks about doing this while you're walking or falling asleep or whatever it might be, because that's, as a mother, as a business owner, as someone with ADHD, with someone who's just 100 miles an hour, I struggle to sit still for a long period of time. And for me, walking or listening to a DI while I'm sleeping, that really works for me as well.
Yeah, speak more to that too, especially we have so many members who are neurodivergent. And what does that look like? How do you process best? Have you found any tricks or tips that work really well for you? I've definitely heard doing another activity while listening to the DI actually allows you to go deeper, whether it's like cleaning dishes or going for a walk or whatever it may be. But has there been anything that you recognize really works in your practice?
I would just say I find it really hard to stick to a schedule or stick to a routine. And so for me, it's like just taking the pressure off, and it doesn't have to be perfect. One thing that did really work for me, I started going to a sauna space just near my office, and that was my DI space. So I wouldn't let myself scroll or read a book or anything. the only thing I was allowed to do in there was to do my DIs. And it became such a powerful, like, welcoming thing for me. I ended up buying a sauna for my home, which was a huge manifestation that came through, that I first of all bought a home that could fit the sauna, but also could, purchase that for myself. And so it's the same now. It's like it's a sacred space for me. And I'm not saying you have to have a sauna, but I think the reason why that works well, why you could even go to a place where you can just rent a sauna for an hour, you literally close the door and it's dark and it's like, this is the time that I need to do this work right now.
I love that. I mean, I'm even thinking people can find different spots of their home where it's like, turn down the lights, light the candle, put on the thing and be like, for this time blocked piece, I'm in here with myself.
Definitely. And having like a eye mask works really well for me. And I know even now I can't sleep unless I wear an eye mask. I don't know if it's the pressure on my eyes or just the darkness that helps. But yeah, it's just kind of like getting into almost like a ritual around it. It doesn't have to be crazy. It just has to be a few steps that you do in order to just get yourself into that state quicker.
I love that permission too, because I think the tools work best when you are just using them, period.
Yeah.
You don't have to use them in a specific order. Of course, we have recommendations and stuff, but you know what's best for you. And if it's going to get you to just have that 15 minutes of connection to self, lean into that, listen to that. This is your permission slip. Follow your pings of what you want to do and what tool you want to do when.
I mean, there's 3 things that I want to say. Number 1, don't stop doing the work when things are going well for you, because that's when you think you don't need it, but you still need it, because the human mind has it really likes to get us back into our familiar states again. So just keep doing the work when you don't think you need it. The second thing is when you are feeling down and out and you're feeling like you don't know which way to turn. I still do this today. My mind tricks me. And if I'm going through something tough, and I'm like, okay, I need to do a DI to work through this, there's this voice that's like, what's a little meditation going to do? You know, and it's almost like I doubt the process, even though I've seen the results of it so many times, I still doubt it. And I think to myself, and this is a mistake I made back when in my before state, I thought that the answer to getting through financial failure in my business, the health journey I was on, I thought the answer was, as you said, do more, work more hours, do more things. But the answer was actually focusing on myself and upgrading my mind and my energy. And that happens through those DIs. The third thing I want to say about what really helped me to evolve and to keep going, visualize your higher self and show up as her or him or them. And it's really about sitting down and just writing out who is your, well, I call it favourite self, that it's like your best self, your higher self. I like favourite self because it's not, my favourite self isn't perfect, which I think you guys have done an episode on as well. But it's like, who is she? What does she wear? How does she talk? How does she hold herself? How does she spend her days? What's her morning like? All of those things. And then you literally take that and create like a to-do list out of it. And it feels weird to do these things. Like, you know, I'm really focusing on my health this year, and one of them was to buy some disgusting green drink thing that I drink. And I hate doing it, but I'm like, my favourite self drinks this every morning, so I'm going to do it. You don't see the immediate benefits from this straight away, but over time it accumulates. And in a few months' time, you look back and you're like, wow, I'm in a completely different place from where I started.
I think that's another important thing to kind of touch on too, is knowing that discernment of like, okay, what is for me authentically versus what do I need to be disciplined in that I might not like doing? For example, the green drink, or for me, it's taking like psyllium husk or fiber. Like I know I need more fiber in my diet, but there are mornings where I'm just like, I don't want that. And then the days I do, I'm like, well, my digestion feels great and this helps and all the things, and I don't have fiber in other ways. But it's like knowing that my higher self, I know the benefits on the other side are going to feel good, but immediately I might not have that gut excitement about doing it. And knowing that that is in alignment with my authentic self versus I saw 10 million supplements by all these influencers and I'm going to buy it. Well, am I just doing that because I think I should? That would be then inauthentic.
Yeah, I think my journey has certainly been one of discovering who I am, discovering my authenticity. And it's funny, in the previous episodes where you talked about authenticity and you even said, I wish there was a different word for it. I have been saying that for so long. I'm like, I hate the word authenticity, but there's got to be another word that means this. But that's why I've kind of really focused all of the work that I do. Yes, I'm a marketer and I teach marketing, but it's the authenticity piece to the marketing that matters. And that's why I've really landed on the favourite self angle, because I think that really summarises the best it can who I'm striving to be. And it's funny, my vision boards and my journals from who I thought I was back in 2021, I've evolved so much past that. I've achieved a lot of those goals and that's been great, but it's almost like when you achieve a manifestation, it's also a great opportunity to reflect back and think, would I strive for that again? Is that something that I want to continue doing? And I'll give an example. My travel is a huge thing for me, and I've always wanted, first class, I call it iconic travel, where it's like we stay in iconic resorts, destinations, restaurants, all of that kind of stuff. And last year we basically got all of that. We were flying in helicopters, we stayed at the most incredible oceanfront Italian villa for my birthday, and I had the big white robe breakfast on the balcony experience, all of that. And don't get me wrong, I loved it, but we go to Europe every year, and this year we are pulling that back so much to the point where the objective now is just like go on a road trip, stay in almost falling down old castles that cost like nothing to stay in. And I've realised, okay, I did love that first class experience and that was really fun to do, but it's actually not 100% authentic with who I am. And actually, this is more who I am, and that's okay. My holidays, I'm more about like, where can we go that's undiscovered as opposed to going to the 5-star.
The hot spot. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's a really beautiful thing, though.
Okay, so I'm so curious. Why do you think, because like if you think about anything you want to manifest, half of it is going to be, or a part of it is going to be truly your authentic soul, your essence, etc. And part of it is like societal programming, maybe childhood wounding, like you didn't get this, so you want to get this in adulthood. What do you think in your childhood led you to maybe wanting those first class travel experiences?
Yeah, this is something that I had to work really hard to unravel, and I don't think I'm all the way there yet. When I first started learning about manifestation work, this was back in 2020 with my first business coach I hired, and she introduced me to this. And together with her, we scaled the business from like 20K months to 100K months, right? And she used to tell me, you need to look at what your stories are around money. And I'm like, I only have positive stories around money. I grew up in an area that was relatively affluent, and then my parents, they worked hard and they achieved great things and they had enough money, so it was never that we didn't have enough. And even looking at how my mother looked to people with money in her family and even my dad's family, people with money were always really well respected and we put them on a pedestal. So I thought to myself, well, clearly I only aspire to have money, right? But then on the flip side, my mother grew up in quite an influential German family and she actually hated that. And she knows quite a few very, very wealthy people, and she purposely moved to Australia and created a life completely separate from that. And so on one hand, it was like we put people on a pedestal that had money. But on the other hand, it's like there was almost this undercurrent of they spend their money ridiculously. And so there was this duality that I was constantly fighting about where, do I want to have money or do I not want to have money?
You talked about too in your submission, like in that before phase with your business, how it was not working, not taking off. Did you see some of those themes play out there?
What I see with it is that, so I've had my business for 10 years now, and probably about 7 years ago, that's when I started getting into manifestation, and I thought I wanted 100 people on my team. I wanted multiple offices. I wanted more. And I started getting that. And I got my team to only 14 people, but that was a big team. I got the big studio space, which we renovated and is beautiful. And we started signing really huge contracts, all of this stuff. So I was technically getting everything I wanted, but then it all fell apart. And I know that I subconsciously made that happen because I was actually the most miserable that I've ever been in my entire life when my business was technically making the most money. And it's because I didn't actually want a big team. I didn't want more clients. I didn't want it to be like that because one of my authentic code, the biggest one for me is ease. And having a big team and having all of that is not easy.
Yeah. You have a lot of different personalities, a lot of different energy, a lot of paths, there's a lot to hold. There's a lot of energy to hold when you have a big team like that.
Yeah, and the reason why I wanted all of that, it wasn't because I thought that that's how I would necessarily make the most money. It's because I remember always getting so excited when I could hire someone else to show externally, look how successful I am. I've hired another person. And look, we've got a real office space now. We're not just working from home. And look, I bought my dream car. Look how it's really difficult to pull apart what is actually authentic and what is not.
I think that's also such a good indicator when you were talking about, I want to have the office. Like, do you see, like, we don't have to do this anymore. Do you see? The do you see is the immediate indicator that it's external validation. Because who do you want to see? Is it your parents? Is it your peers? Is it society? Where are you not seeing yourself? And I think that when it comes to the authenticity piece and really rooting in that, it's really being honest with yourself in that integrity. What isn't freaking working? It sounds like I should want it. And maybe for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I've told myself that this is my story and this is what I want and I'm going to achieve that and all these things. But you have to be open to the possibility that your story could literally fulfill you in so many ways that feel so much better than the one that you're stuck striving on. If it feels like you're turning and turning and turning, something's off. It's not going to feel like that. It's going to feel like ease, like flow, like holding you, like supporting you in that direction.
For sure. And I think that when I first started really exploring this, and I kind of became a bit panicked to think that I don't want the luxury life necessarily. If I don't want that, then does that mean I'm not going to make money? What does that mean for me? And so I've really had to come to terms with the fact that true luxury is just being able to spend your money and your time the way that you want to. And I think, again, like really understanding what the motivation is behind what the thing is. It's not the thing. It's never the thing. It's the motivation behind it.
100%. I think that's why when people are casting their manifestation list or, if other people are not necessarily doing TBM, but they're making a vision board, get to the root essence. What do you think that nice vacation, that pillar in your business, that goalpost is going to get you to? And how do you want to feel operating from there? Because the second you're playing the game to prove to someone else what you have or your value or your worth, you already know you're out of alignment. And it's hard to get back, right? It's hard to be like, okay, cool. Yep, I see it. I know I still kind of want it, but I know that this is for external validation, so I have to course correct. What tools or DIs or things did you look at when you noticed you were leaning more in that direction? And have you noticed from your business and career as you become more in alignment and clear about who you are authentically, how that's shifted your career dynamic too?
Yeah, so I'll give some background to what I do, and even looking at that, you can see how everything shifted. So I've been a marketer for almost 20 years. I have a marketing agency where we work for, we say, small brands with big vision and big brands that want to connect. But as I've evolved, what I've realised is that anything you do, I mean, I look at it from a business perspective, but you as a business owner or a leader, you are your own most valuable asset. And I don't care how many marketing funnels or psychology-aligned strategies or anything that I can teach you in that sense. I don't care how much of that you have right. If the mindset piece is not working, if you don't believe in yourself, if you're not doing this from an authentic place, if you're playing pretend, if you are severely lacking self-worth, it's not going to work for you. And so my vision and my purpose now is I believe that there is an audience for everyone through social media, and I think there is so much power in understanding who our favourite selves are, getting on a social media channel, building up a community around what you love, connecting with other people who also share that or who will benefit from your story, and then being able to create a business that's aligned with what you do. Think of how magnetic the world would be if we all were doing what we loved. That's my belief. that's, I guess, how my career has evolved, where it's like the marketing is there, but I know that it's the mindset piece that is so important. And without that, you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve with the marketing.
I'm going to share a little mini manifestation story for you guys about how the Our Place Always pan helped Daniel and I reconnect with our authentic desire to cook really good meals at home. So in our previous apartment, we had a super tiny kitchen. There wasn't a lot of storage space, so that meant very limited number of cookware items or things that we could cook with. And when we were in the kitchen, we were always slamming into each other. We had a million dishes, and it became more of a headache than something that we truly enjoyed. And about a month before we moved, we got the Our Place Always pan. It was in the clay color. It's super chic. It's beautiful. You actually want to leave it out on the stove because it looks so good, which in a tiny kitchen helps with storage a lot. And it's a 10-in-1 pan, which means you can saute, sear, bake. Yes, that means you can put it in the oven, braise, fry, boil, roast, strain, and steam. It comes with a little strainer pot so you can steam it and strain your noodles or anything you want. And you can serve directly out of it because it is so gorgeous. And best of all, and honestly most importantly of all, it's non-toxic, which means there's no Teflon, there's no PFAS, there's no chemicals that is in any of the lining of the pan, any of their appliances, any of their cookware, anything that you'll get from this brand. They're completely non-toxic, healthy, and sustainable choices. So many other pans on the market almost greenwash or say that they don't have a toxic chemical in their lining, but they actually do in the main pan, or different parts of the pan have toxic chemicals attached to it. This one is completely non-toxic and chemical free, which is such a relief when trying to cook healthy meals, to also not be adding chemicals while you are cooking them. I also am obsessed with the way that it cooks food. I am someone who loves making my eggs and my omelet in the morning. I cannot live without it. And the way that a pan cooks an egg tells me everything about how much I'm going to use that pan. And I am telling you, I have cooked on a lot of different pans in my life, even some other non-toxic brands out there, and nothing cooks my eggs better than the Our Place pan. I highly recommend it. Daniel has been cooking everything in it, and since we moved to our new place, we haven't stopped cooking with it. We have used it literally every single day, multiple times a day. It's so easy to clean and wash off, and it truly is my favorite pan of all time and thing in our kitchen. And it really helped reignite this passion we have for cooking food at home, which I truly would have thought was just not part of my authenticity. And it turns out it actually really is. I just didn't have the right pan. So if you guys want to try out the Our Place Always pan or any of their other appliances or kitchenware and cook items, you can go to FromOurPlace.com and enter code TBM at checkout and get 10% off site-wide. That's FromOurPlace.com and code TBM, all caps TBM. Our Place offers a 100-day trial and free shipping and returns. You will not regret this purchase. Enjoy. Talk about that shift moment where, you know, you had all these people running your company at this one point and you had all these ideas, but you didn't even share them because you were like, well, I don't want to step on anyone's toes, and it's your company at the end of the day. And you really had to shift into self-worth to be able to say, like, look, this is how I feel like we need to run it, and to step back into your power within even your own company.
Well, again, that links up to this whole, like, who did I want to be? What was my purpose? What is my purpose? Who do I want to be? How do I want to help the world? And it was when I had my bigger team and I had a manager who just wasn't aligned with how I wanted to do things and how I had been successful to this point. And I always wanted to bring this mindset piece and like this more spiritual angle into the work that we were doing, but I was just constantly shut down. Like, no, that's not what we're here for. That's not what people want from us. And it just, I completely lost control of the company, not just from that angle, but the management of the staff, the types of clients we were signing. So the problem isn't with me, it's the fact, well, it is with me, but in a sense that I simply wasn't showing up for myself. I wasn't willing to ruffle feathers, to cause conflict is what I thought, by voicing what I needed. And so that all just came to a head, and I just had to let go of more than half the team one day, completely unprompted, unplanned, but something came over me, and I guess that's the only true, like, I woke up to myself moment that I had, and that put me on a different plane after that.
What do you feel allowed you to have that moment, to follow through with that action? You know, was there any DIs you leaned on before, or journal prompts, or nervous system work?
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's like one thing to get the ping that you need to make that shift. It's another to follow through on it.
The way that I have always approached TBM, it is my foundation, my undercurrent, and my consistent in my life all the time. On top of that, I add, at one point I was doing traditional talk therapy as well, which was really beneficial. There are other meditations or activations that I like to use as well to complement the work I do with TBM, but I feel like the TBM work, it is truth. It is truth in that it's essentially just about raising your self-worth. That's what this work is about. And so that needs to happen all the time. In addition to that, I have my own vision boarding process. That in itself has been a game changer for me, in that I don't just look at, pretty pictures, but I also look at how do I want to feel, what kind of person do I need to show up as in order to do that, and then also, like, what are the ongoing habits that I need to adopt in order to achieve those goals. So that vision boarding process, that has really helped me become clearer on knowing what path to go on. It's like that helped me figure out where I want to point. And then the TBM work is what keeps me stepping one foot in front of the other. In terms of the DIs that I do, as I said, I definitely don't do this work perfectly. And I really just listen to my gut as to what I feel like I need. I'll go into the daily practice, and then I'll kind of read through the list and read through, what is this for? If you're feeling triggered, or if you're feeling like you're playing small, or if you're feeling whatever it is, I tune into what I'm feeling, and then I'll do that. I would say, though, my favourite ones to do is probably just the unblock DI. I feel like that works really well. And sometimes when I can't decide what I want, I put too much pressure on myself and think, I need to do the right one. I've only got a certain amount of time. But it's like, it doesn't matter what you do. Just do something. Do the thing. Get yourself into that state. Get yourself into a better place. And that's the answer.
I think, too, when you have those moments where you're like, okay, I need to make a big shift, or I need to make a big change, it for a long time, really like a dormant energy that's just like, it's there, but you're just not listening to it. And then it gets louder and louder and louder, and to the point where you're like, I can't function if I don't change this. We are here. We are at that moment. And I think you have to be gentle with yourself too, right? Like, if you're not at that moment, if you're still not ready to listen to that, heed the call, what is it? The hero's journey. If you're not willing to accept the journey, it's okay. Just keep regulating. And when you have that moment that you're ready to make that shift, make it. But my guess is you probably knew way before you shifted your team that things needed to change,
Yeah, I definitely did. And I used to have feelings about people, about what their motivations were, whether they are meant to be on my journey or not. And it was like this energy. And the first employee that did wrong by me, she had that energy, and I just ignored it. And then 2 more employees over the years, I thought to myself, they reminded me of that other person, but I just ignored that. Like, my gut was telling me these people aren't aligned, and they ended up doing things like taking clients and going behind my back and everything. And again, I don't blame them, because I let that happen. I think that's a huge thing. If you are in a place where you don't want to be and everything just feels like it's wrong, and you feel like, all these people are doing wrong by me, that's being in a victim mentality. And what I want people to realise is, and this will probably trigger some people, but you are responsible for everything in your life. If an employee or a client is treating you badly, it is your responsibility to set a boundary there. You can't control what other people do, but you can control yourself and what you allow to happen. And the best advice I can just give is to just set that boundary, because on the other side of that, wonderful things will happen for you. It's almost like it's at this point now where I only have like the best team right now. But even in the past, if there's been sticky situations and I'm like, oh, it's an awkward conversation, and it's like my people-pleasing mode goes into, oh, I don't really want to have this conversation. Now I actually look forward to it because I know that on the other side of speaking my needs, setting boundaries, listening to what the other person is dealing with, number one, we're going to have a closer relationship, but number two, something great is going to happen because it always does.
I think that mindset reframe too, right? It can be so scary to set that boundary. It can be so scary to make that decision wherever it is in your life, to take space from a person, to create more time for yourself, to switch a job, whatever. But avoiding it is going to keep you in that unalignment. Avoiding it isn't actually protecting you. It's protecting you from a temporary uncomfortable sensation of that dynamic being there. And that's why I love the worst case scenario DI, because whenever I'm like really scared to set a boundary or really putting it off, or like I know I need to speak my truth about a situation and I know the other person might not like it, or I assume the other person might not like it. When I do the worst case scenario, I'm like, okay, the worst case scenario is they just don't agree with me. I want to create a space where they feel they can totally have their opinions, be themselves, etc. So if I'm creating that space, then I hope they can give that back to me too. And they can see that, okay, we might not agree on this, but let's approach it from this angle. I feel like there's going to be a lot of that this year in particular, every year, but I'm just sensing a lot of hard conversations, but really the beauty on the other side of them, the resilience to be able to show up for yourself and be like, wow, I freaking did that. I said that thing. I had that feeling. I followed through. I spoke my truth. Wow. Like it just lightened so much. You've heard us talk about our Pathway membership, but what actually is it? It is an all-access membership where you can get every single workshop that we've ever created, all of our deep imaginings, which are our reprogramming audios, to help you manifest. You can access it on the desktop or in the TBM app on your phone directly. We, of course, have our foundational workshops, such as our How to Manifest workshop, which takes you step by step through this neural manifestation process to actually unblock, expand, and take aligned action to connect with your manifestations. Our How to Be Magnetic workshop, our Inner Child and Shadow workshops. And then, of course, we have a workshop if you are in a rut, if you're in a rock bottom, if you're in an up level, perhaps you need to set boundaries. Maybe you want to focus specifically on the block of money or love. It is all in there. And then twice a year as a community, we gather for our challenges. Our challenges are one of the most effective parts of the process because you get accountability. It is really a handheld experience in how to work through whatever the theme of that year's challenge is. And now to my absolute favorite part of our membership, which I think in and of itself would be worth the entire weight of the membership if we just had this alone, our Deep Imagining library. This library encompasses over 60 neural reprogramming audio tracks. They're self-hypnosis tracks that will really support you in any step of this journey. If you're needing calming, nervous system regulation, unblocking with a specific test or trigger, going through a difficult time, processing a big emotion, or maybe you just want reinforcing, how to reinforce those neural pathways of confidence, abundance, self-worth, deservingness, and connection with your dream life. And not only that, if you go to the app, we just launched Deep Imagining playlists where we're grouping different themes of DIs together. So no matter what you're going through, you have something for you. And we're constantly dropping new playlists as well as brand new Deep Imaginings. And if you need more support in your process, you can go to our brand new video series, Channelings with Lacey, where she touches on the exact energetics that are going on right now in manifestation and how it may apply to your life. So obviously, I am a huge fan of this membership. The peace of mind I get from being able to have all the tools I need at my disposal, no matter where I'm at with my life, if shit's hitting the fan, if I'm feeling dysregulated, if I'm needing to come back to my center, if I'm needing to brainstorm or daydream or connect with what my vision for my future is, every single tool is in there to support me. And don't just take my word for it. We have thousands of testimonials of people who have had incredible success stories with these tools. So take the guesswork out of your manifestation process and get real tools that are going to give you real results. For podcast listeners only, you can use code EXPANDED, all caps EXPANDED, for 20% off your first month of the pathway. Join now and have your best year yet. Talk a little bit about your health journey and how this all sort of played in at the same time.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 26 years old, which in the same week I found out I was pregnant with my first child. So type 1 it's not lifestyle induced, it's genetic, but there's a lot more people getting it later on in life. It is minute to minute, it is a daily struggle of balancing your blood sugar levels so that you don't die. It's a pretty serious diagnosis. I've never let it really define me though. I guess it helped. I was also pregnant when it first happened, so there was something positive to focus on. I also have an hypothyroidism, which is the underactive thyroid. So I have two autoimmune disorders that make you gain weight or make losing weight really difficult. I'd also grown up from my mum having a lot of, she always thought she was doing the best, but there was a big focus on health, but also appearance. And so to the point where it was normal for me at 12 years old to be doing Weight Watchers and counting points and everything, which again, it wasn't from a completely disordered place, but and back in the 2000s, that was probably kind of normal because that's the age we grew up in. But I was definitely really quite obsessed with my weight and how I looked. And it was always something I struggled with, and there was a lot of self-worth tied up with how I looked. Now, when I fell pregnant, I got my diagnoses as well. I had no control over how much weight I was putting on because of the pregnancy and also my conditions. And I ended up putting on probably, 30 kilos more than what I feel my best at, which is where I am right now. It wasn't even about how I looked necessarily. I still wore the clothes I wanted to wear and I still felt quite okay with things, but I think that whole journey had to happen in order for me to separate my self-worth from my weight, because no matter what I tried, I couldn't lose anything. And so in order for me to be happy, I needed to go on this, and this all coincided with this TBM work. It was it doesn't matter how I look, it's how I feel, which is the most important. But the craziest thing is that when there was this one point where I bought my dream house, my company was back to thriving. Literally everything was going so well. And then the weight just came off. I was working with my specialist doctor on some things and we had some medications to support me, but that was only really a really short period of time. And since then, it's literally the weight loss has been effortless. And I don't think it was ever about the weight. It was never about any of those things. It was, I think, just about the fact that it was this emotional protection in a sense. And it's when I healed the things inside of me that I felt needed to be protected or I felt needed to be hidden, my physical body reacted to that mental shift as well.
What did you feel like you were maybe hiding or holding on to, or what was that emotional weight that was also there at that time?
I think it had to do with a fear of being seen, which I didn't think I had because I was always I loved to perform as a kid. But in my early teens, I did get a lot of attention from the opposite sex, which I never was really interested in. And I hated that I couldn't just go I don't know, it wasn't even super bad. It was just if we were at a thing with all other high schoolers, the boys would point me out in my group and try and make advances on me. And I didn't want that. And it was even to the point where when I was doing work experience in Sydney, I was 16 and I was catching the bus home from working experience at a magazine. And there was grown-ass men at the bus stop trying to get my number. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when it's every single day that you get stared at on public transport, you get approached by people and you had to you don't want to hurt their feelings. Now I couldn't care less. I'd be get the F away from me, But it's when you're 16 years old and you're not ready for that attention, it does leave a mark. And I think that then translated into, as I was growing up, and then even into these later years as well, where it was just if I'm not seen, then I don't have to deal, oh my God, it's all coming together now. Mm-hmm. Then I don't have to deal with worrying about hurting other people's feelings by rejecting them. So I think that's a big underlying theme. It's I was so worried about managing other people's feelings and not wanting to reject them. And to me, rejecting them meant not giving them what they wanted or giving them negative feedback.
It's so interesting, and I love that it's happening also like in real time for you. Like it's all clicking this root theme. And this happens so much with this work. Oh, you're getting tested and triggered in all of these different sectors, or you see these themes throughout your life. But often it roots down to like only a few core themes that come up again and again and again in different layers, in a way for us to really like, okay, this is my lesson in this lifetime, is all the ways I can break this down, all the ways I can move through this, I can come out on the other side of it. And if you guys are clocking like her earlier story about, not being able to speak up for her needs within her company, not really checking in even with your needs for what you wanted on the abundance level or in luxury, right? Saying like, no, actually, I don't want that type of vacation. I want to be road tripping like this in a car. And I want it to be like that, not wanting to disappoint maybe family or friends or whoever's like, oh, if you're successful, you should be flying this way. All of this fear of rejecting others' needs or desires, it's so intrinsic to our survival because we want to stay a part of the group. We want mom and dad to feel happy. We want, no one to feel uncomfortable, because what does that mean for us? What's going to be the retaliation of that? Or what discomfort then do I have to sit with their rejection? But the beautiful thing is when you can reframe that and see all of this is rejecting yourself, you're rejecting your needs, you're rejecting your ability to allow yourself to be comfortable and be seen, you can start to metabolize, oh, I have just been compromising myself this whole time for all of these other people. If I can actually put myself first, I'm going to give myself credit. Even if they do feel rejected and not good, I'll be okay and they'll be okay. I'm going to give them even a little more credit that they can handle that rejection too.
And again, this is part of, I've really been shifting to figure out what is the legacy that I want to create with the work that I do. And really, the legacy is, when it comes down to it, I just want everyone to focus on themselves, making themselves better, because if, affix your face mask, oxygen mask before helping others. Like, you can't help others if you're passed out on the ground with no oxygen. Make sure you get that oxygen, and you do that by prioritizing yourself, by letting go of any, especially mum guilt. My non-negotiable for a very long time was I needed to do my beach walks in the morning. And that meant that I was loading my husband up with the 2 kids. And if they were screaming as I was walking out the door because they wanted breakfast or whatever, I had to let go of that because I knew that I was a better person when I came back from that walk. And my husband can handle the kids being grumpy about breakfast situation. There would be no point me saying, oh, I just won't go on this walk today because I feel bad, I'll help you with the kids. Then I go to work feeling like crap. Then I aren't my best self when I show up on social media. Then I can't reach as many people. Then I have resentment to my husband because why couldn't he just handle the kids? Look after yourself first and do this work. And it's never-ending work. How long have I been doing this for? 4 years now? It feels like longer. TBM will help you figure out, it really is the onion layers. Like, you peel one thing back and you think, oh, I've got it now. You get to the next level and it's something else is back again. And really, it's only on this call right now, Jessica, that I uncovered this whole, okay, this is all linked to not wanting to reject people and not wanting to hurt people's feelings.
Well, and then I'd be curious, what do you think would happen if you rejected people? What is that fear? And often when we can go into, and that's why, again, I'm plugging that worst case scenario DI because it's so helpful for this. Even if you just use the journal prompts, your 16-year-old self is in the driver's seat in those scenarios where she's not even thinking about the worst case scenario. She's just like, my body feels panicked. I feel unsafe. I don't like how I feel about this. This is not a great situation. Shut it down. We're not going there. And then as an adult, and you're like, okay, you have to post on social, or you have to take a picture, or you have to be seen in your body as a human. Your 16-year-old self comes back online and is like, we're not doing that. Yeah. How can we hide? How can we go in the background? Getting really clear on who is taking that driver's seat over and over again, and not get rid of them, but relate to them differently. Be like, okay, I see you, but I'm actually not 16 anymore. And if someone comes and messes with us, you better believe I'm going to protect you. And you're safe now. How do you reconstruct that relationship to self?
It's that reprogramming piece. It's just going into the DIs, going back and reliving those scenarios and situations. And, you have the choice of your magnetic parents or somebody else, or I always bring my future self. That's who I have, me right now. And it's so funny because I look back now and I'm like, the future self that I used to visualize in those old DIs in my old house, that's me right now.
Crazy.
That is me right. And it's like, it's really profound work. I think the fact that you make it so accessible to so many people all over the globe is just, you are changing the world for the better. And yes, it's this ripple effect again, because you think of the work that you and Lacey are doing and your team are doing. You've helped me become my favourite self. Therefore, I can show up and do more with my work that's going to help someone else. And it just keeps going and going. And I look at my own team, the way that when they start working for me, it usually takes about 6 months and you can see they're dressing more confidently, they're happier, they're more fulfilled with everything. And it's like, I'm so proud I can create a workplace that does that to people. And that's because of the work that I've done with TBM.
It's so powerful. And that roots down to authenticity. Transforming people's lives is just a part of my DNA at this point. It just feels so, it's like that thing that lights me up, that gets me out of bed in the morning. If you are authentically in touch with what that is and putting that out and serving people and helping and inspiring and all of those things, think of who that touches and that touches and that touches and that touches. And I feel like that really is just the way to make the world better.
Definitely. And again, it's not about, we don't all have to become healers or become any of that kind of thing. It's like, what do you already do that you're good at? Where do you have skills? My skills are in marketing, but I've combined that with additional, mindset and this other work so that I can teach people elements of mindset, but then how to translate that into social media to gain a following, and then how to have a business that makes you happy. If your skill set is like personal training and fitness, figure out how to do that, but also it's not just about people getting fit, it's about people feeling good and being their best selves as well. So it's like, that's how you can help the world.
100%. Or even like the energy to which you bring to anything. We have this one garbage man who picks up our recyclables every single week. And it is such a joy connecting with him, because every time he drives by, he's like blasting music, he's smiling, he's happy. We always say hello. We're like, how you doing today? What's going on? Like, there is this moment of connection. Like, he is loving it. In that moment, he is bringing a certain authentic energy to everything he's doing, which is going to have a ripple effect on every other aspect of his life. So it's just like leaning into whatever your pocket of the universe is right now. And even if you're not at your dream job or dream position, how can you make your pocket the most authentic expression of you as you possibly can? And then that will be that 1 degree, that one step, that one small action to start to shift everything else. What does your life look like now? We kicked off with the before. So what does the present day life of Maddy look like?
So I like to get up early. My alarm is set for 4:44 a.m. I'm just a morning person. That's me as my best self. I live in my dream house now, which overlooks the ocean. It has a gym in the bottom left-hand corner, which was on my list, with my treadmill, and I have a screen and a desk set up. It has my sauna, it has my Pilates reformer, and I get to spend basically 2 hours in there every single morning, catching up on work, Pinterest vision boarding, just listening to music, whatever it might be. And that's my time. Then I go to my office and I work with my team, and my team really take control of pretty much everything. My job now is mainly content creation and a bit of, leadership. My commitment this year is to make sure I'm home when my kids are home from school, because they're both now at school, and to really focus on their homework. So getting home at, 3:30 in the afternoon, doing that, going into my garden, cooking dinner, hanging out with my husband. That's our week to week. And then we like to go on at least 3 or 4 pretty big international trips every year. So that's life.
Love it. Love it. What would be one piece of advice you would share with someone who is on the fence about joining or starting this journey? They're like, okay, yeah, I got it, but I don't know if I should join.
What have you got to lose? If you're in a place even remotely similar to where I was before, what have you got to lose? Just start doing it. Challenge yourself to doing a DI every day for like 5 days. I guarantee magical stuff will start happening to you where you can't explain why and how this opportunity just landed on your doorstep, but it will happen. And it will be lifelong work that you actually love to do, and it will give your life so much meaning. It's the best. It transforms your life.
Thank you, Maddy. Where can everyone find you and connect with you?
So on Instagram and on TikTok is probably the easiest way to find me. So the handle is just @MaddyBirdcage, MADDY Birdcage. And then you'll find all my businesses through there, but definitely connect. Yeah, send me an Instagram DM if you like this episode, because I love hearing from people where my pain and my struggles have resonated and maybe even just made a small little change in their day.
So beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.
I hope you all enjoyed that episode as much as we did. And if you're starting to get a feel for this to be magnetic manifestation process but aren't completely sold yet, let me point you to some of our free offerings. You can check out the expanded podcast episode called How to Manifest Anything You Desire, where Lacey, the founder, and I break down exactly what this process is all about. You can check out The Motivation, which is our testimonial library with thousands of testimonials of people who have manifested wild things using this process. Or you can check out our free mini workshop to find out why you're not manifesting and listen to one of our proprietary deep imagining audios, where it's going to help you drop into your theta state and overwrite low self-worth limiting beliefs. Enjoy. We'll see you next week.